Tonight, Columbia brings you as guest star Hollywood's genial character actor, Stuart Irwin. The story is by the author of The Thin Man and the Maltese Falcon, Dashiell Hammett, one of America's acknowledged masters of the art of suspense. Suspense is compounded of mystery and intrigue and dangerous adventure. In this series are stories calculated to intrigue you, to stir your nerves, to offer you a precarious situation, and then withhold the solution until the last possible moment. Tonight, for instance, Stuart Irwin plays for us a pleasant, easygoing assistant chief of police in a small town who, to everyone's surprise, was instrumental in solving a murder. We trust that with this tale we shall keep you in suspense.
For suspense tonight, CBS presents Stuart Irwin in Two Sharp Knives by Dashiell Hammett.
Shortly after 2 a.m., a poker game had just broken up at Ben Camley's, the doctor coroner of Deerwood City. Scott Anderson, Deerwood's chief of police, and Wally Shane, his assistant, were standing outside.
Where are we heading for, Scott?
Let's walk across the street, Wally. Railroad station.
Gee, aren't you afraid of the excitement, Chief? Don't you think that watching the 211 come in is apt to be too much for your blood pressure?
Well, if it is, Wally, you can always carry on. You've been a pretty good imitation of an assistant to me for some time now.
Yeah?
Yeah. If anything happens to me, you'd be the chief. Don't worry. It won't be any harder for you to fool the public as chief. Hi, Elmer.
Howdy, Scott. Hi, hello, Wally. Kind of late for you boys to be around, ain't it?
No, I don't know. We sort of figured we'd put the town to bed tonight. How's the 211? On time?
Right on the nose. She ought to be blowing for the bend in just about 3 seconds now. Yep. What'd I tell you? It's her now. You expecting anyone on her, Scott?
No, Elmer, I'm not expecting anyone. Wally and I just thought we'd come over and watch you come in, that's all.
You know, Elmer, you never can tell who might get off, though. Dick Turpin, Henry Morgan, Jesse James, Jack the Ripper, or 6 officers of Murder Incorporated, or even your Aunt Gussie.
I guess you're right, Wally. Well, here she be. Pardon me, gents, but I gotta be rolling the wagon out to the baggage car. Going? Well, can't complain. Can't complain, Cap.
Well, maybe you can't, Elmer, but I sure can if you hold us up with that freight there. You got much more?
Nope. This is the last piece now. There you are, Cap. All done.
Okay. See you tomorrow, Elmer.
Hey, Scott, do you see what I see?
I mean, do I see the man who just got off that train? The answer's yes.
Well, he's a ringer for the guy we got a picture of.
That is the guy.
Well, then, what do we do now?
We take him, Wally. My car's at the corner of the alley.
But, Scott...
We'll tail him up the street.
Okay, Scott. There he goes now, over toward the taxi stand.
Come on. Let's follow him. Hello, Furman.
Huh? All right. I don't
You're
believe
Mr. Furman, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Philadelphia?
Yes.
I'm Scott Anderson, chief of police.
What? Chief of... What's happened to her?
Happened to who?
Oh, no, you don't.
No.
Let me go.
Hold
You
on.
think you can pull that sort of stuff with me? You're
Scott,
very
let
much
me get a
mistaken.
crack at that
Now,
mug. No.
Wait a minute.
No.
Wait a minute,
Hold it,
gentlemen.
Wally. Well, Furman?
Well, I'm sorry. For a moment there, I thought you weren't really a policeman.
Thanks. Nice to know I look almost human.
Yes, it was silly of me. I'm sorry.
Well, let's get going now before anything else happens. Okay, Furman, get in the car. I'll drive, Scott.
In you go.
Are you taking me to police headquarters?
That's right.
What for?
Philadelphia?
I don't think I understand.
You understand that you're wanted in Philadelphia for murder, don't you?
Murder? Why, that's ridiculous. Who told you that?
Well, it's a cinch he didn't make it up.
But wait, there must be
Take it easy now. Just wait till we get down to headquarters. And I'll show you what I mean.
Now then, here's the circular on Lester Furman. It was sent out by the Trans-America Detective Agency in Philadelphia. Take a look at it.
Oh, $1,500 reward for the arrest and conviction of Lester Furman, alias Lloyd Fields, alias J.D. Carpenter, for the murder of Paul Frank Dunlap in Philadelphia on December 8th, 1942.
Well?
It's a lie.
You're Furman, aren't you?
Oh, yes, but...
That's your picture on the circular, isn't it?
Oh, yes, but
Well, Scott, I see you and Wally got Furman, huh?
Oh, hello, George.
You lucky stiffs. Now you two split $1.50 reward. I never seen nothing like it. You know, if it ain't vacations in New York at the city's expense, it's reward dough.
Judge, someday, if you don't remember you're the jailer around here, not the D.A., you're going to be wearing your teeth on the outside of your lips, and I'll be the guys who arrange them that way. Savvy?
Just because you caught a guy who's hot in Philadelphia.
it's a lie. It's a frame-up. You can't prove anything. There's nothing to prove. I never killed anybody. I won't be framed.
Take it
I won't be
easy,
framed.
Furman. Take it easy. You're wasting your breath on us. Save it for the Philadelphia police. We're just holding you for them.
But it's not the police. It's the Trans-America
We
Detective...
turn you over to the Philadelphia police.
Mr. Anderson, Well, then there's nothing I can do now.
There's nothing any of us can do till morning. We'll have to search you now, then we won't bother you anymore till they come for you.
But
Wally, you look through his bag. I'll see what he's got in his pockets.
Okay, Scott.
Well, all he's got on him are some business cards, a few letters, $160, a book of checks in the Philadelphia bank, and a few odds and ends. What's with the bag, Wally?
Not much. A couple of changes of clothes, some toilet articles, and... Oh, here's a 38. Loaded. Pretty little thing, isn't it?
Okay, put those things in what I got in the vault. All right, George. You can take Furman now and lock him up.
this is the most ridiculous
Come
thing
along, darling, come on. We ain't had nobody in our little hoosegow for 3 days running. Hey, yeah? You'll have it all to yourself. Just like a suite at the Ritz.
But
Go on, in you go.
I tell you, you're making a mistake. I demand to be allowed to get in touch with my lawyer.
Hey, how about you boys cutting me in on a little of that blood money, huh?
Oh, sure, George, sure. I'll forget all about that 2.5 you've been owing me for 3 months.
Make Furman as comfortable as you can, George. Take good care of him.
He's valuable, huh? Yeah, now, if it was some bum that didn't mean a nickel to you...
George, any day now, I'm going to forget that your uncle is county chairman and throw you back in the gutter just to see how high he'll bounce. Remember that.
Oh, Scott, I didn't mean nothing.
That's all, George. Never mind the rest. I'm going home now. If anything's urgent, I can reach there. But get this. I don't want to be disturbed. Unless it is urgent.
Hello.
Scott, this is Wally.
Yeah, Wally, what time is it?
It's 5 after 6 in the morning, and you'd better come right down, Scott. That fella Furman's hung himself.
What? Furman hung himself?
Yep, by his belt, from a window bar. Deader than a mackerel.
I'll be right in, Wally. Phone Doc Camsley and tell him I'll pick him up on my way down.
No doctor's gonna do Furman any good, Scott.
Well, it won't hurt to have him looked at. You'd better phone the Chronic Court at Douglasville, too, and file a routine report.
Already did that. And what's more, hold on to your seat. The DA's on his way over, in person.
The DA?
Yeah.
I'll be there before you hang up, Wally.
Come on in, Chief. Ted Carroll, the DA's here, and he's plenty hot under the collar.
What's he burning about?
Oh, he's just mad. Running up quite a phone bill on us, too. Been calling Philadelphia every couple of minutes since he got here. What kept you so long?
I couldn't get my car started. Well, let's go in and see the old buzzard. Oh, Ted?
Listen, Scott, what is all this?
Well, what?
There's some funny business going on here.
What's funny about it? Man hangs himself. Just another case of suicide.
Sure, it was suicide. But I just telephoned Transamerica. Dug a guy out of bed there. And he said they'd never sent out circulars on Furman. Didn't know about any murder he was wanted for. All they could tell me about him was he used to be a client of theirs.
I don't know what to say, Ted.
I don't either. Oh, a fine chief of police you are. What on earth kept you so long?
Car store. Came as quick as I could. Makes you so crabby, Ted.
Nothing. I guess it's just the district attorney and me.
Now, come, gentlemen. Nobody'd know you two are staunch admirers of each other.
Okay, Wally. Tell me, what do you make of it?
Well, there's plenty wrong, Scott. First, that Transamerica thing. They never sent out circulars about Furman. And now, get this. I talked to the Philly police just before you came in. There wasn't even any Paul Frank Dunlap murdered.
There wasn't?
No. What did you get out of Furman before you let him hang himself?
But he was innocent.
Didn't you grill him? Didn't you find out what he was doing in town? Wally, didn't you?
What for? He admitted he was Furman. The description fitted him. The photograph was him. The Transamerica Detective Agency's supposed to be on the level, ain't it? Philadelphia wanted Furman. We didn't.
But Scott...
Why, sure, Ted. If I'd have known he was going to hang himself. Yeah, but then if your aunt wore pants, she'd be your uncle. You said Furman had been a client of Transamerica. They tell you what the job they did for him was?
His wife left him a couple of years ago, and he had them hunting for her for 5 or 6 months. But they never found her. They're sending a man up here tonight to look things over.
Yeah, huh?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going out and grab a quick bite. But I might as well tell you, Scott, there's going to be trouble over this.
I know that, Ted. There usually is when somebody dies in a jail cell.
Well, so what's become of that 1,500 fish now, huh, Scott?
What happened there last night, George?
Nothing. Furman hung himself.
Did you find him?
Uh-huh. Wally took a look in here to see how things was before he went off duty, and he found him.
You're asleep, I suppose.
Well, I was catching a nap, I guess, but everybody does that sometimes, Scott. Even Wally sometimes when he comes in off his beat between rounds. Yeah, but I always wake up when the phone rings or anything.
Oh, sure.
Well, suppose I had been awake. You can't hear a guy hanging himself, can you?
Did Doc Camsley say how long Furman had been dead?
He done it about 5 o'clock, he said he guessed. Oh, you want to look at the remains, Scott? They're over at Fritz's undertaking parlor.
Not now.
Hey, and speaking of Furman, what are you going to tell the guys from Transamerica when they show up here tonight?
Come in.
Oh, they told me I'd find you here. You're Chief Anderson, aren't you?
Yes, that's right.
I'm Carl Riesing, Assistant Manager of the Transamerica Detective Agency in Philadelphia. This is Mr. Wheelock, who was Lester Furman's personal attorney.
Glad to know you, Mr. Racing. How do you do, Mr. Wheelock?
How do you do?
I know you gentlemen are already in possession of most of the details concerning Mr. Furman from the time he arrived in Deerwood until the time of his death. But perhaps you don't know that the police of most towns in our corner of the state have also received copies of this same reward circular. Take a look at it.
Oh. I must say this circular is an excellent forgery.
You're sure it's a forgery, Mr. Racing?
Oh, yes, there's no doubt about it. But it's an excellent forgery.
Tell me, Mr. Wheelock, was Mr. Furman a native Philadelphian?
Oh, my, yes. He was a well-known, respectable, and prosperous citizen of Philadelphia.
Married, I believe?
In 1934, he married a 22-year-old girl named Ethel Bryan, daughter of a Philadelphia family.
And the Furmans had a child? Isn't that right, Mr. Wheelock?
Yes, born in 1936, but the child lived only a few months. Mr. Furman's wife disappeared after the child's death.
What year was it that she disappeared?
Mr. Riesing should remember that. His agency worked on the matter.
Oh, I remember it well. Mrs. Furman disappeared in 1937. We never heard anything of her again, although Furman spent a lot of money trying to locate her.
What did she look like, Mr. Racing?
In just a moment. I have a picture of her right here in my briefcase. Here it is. Quite pretty, isn't she?
If you care for that type.
I see what you mean, Mr. Wheelock. Well, she's attractive at that. Judging by this photo, I'd say that she was a small-featured, pretty blonde, with a weak mouth and large, somewhat staring eyes.
Oh, that's an accurate enough description, all right.
If you don't mind, I'd like to have a copy made of that photograph, Mr. Racing.
Oh, you can keep that one if you like. It's one that we had made up at Transamerica. Her description's on the back.
Thanks. Did Furman ever divorce her?
No, sir. He was a lot in love with her, and he seemed to think that the child's dying made her a little screwy so that she didn't know what she was doing. That's right, isn't it, Mr. Wheelock?
That is my belief, Mr. Riesing.
You said Furman had money, Mr. Wheelock. About how much did he have? And who gets it?
I should say his estate will amount to perhaps $500,000 left in its entirety to his wife.
Mm-hmm. It's quite a handy sum for anyone to have, I'd say. Mr. Wheelock, everything shows that somebody framed Furman into the Darewood jail. And that frame-up drove him to suicide. But there has to be something else. A lot else.
Well, then, what are you going to do?
I'm going across the street to the undertaking parlor and have a look at Furman. I'll see you later. Hello, Doc.
Hi, Scott. I figured you'd come over here to the undertaker's pretty soon.
What's in your mind, Doc?
Let's get out of this crowd. I want to tell you something.
I just got rid of 2 guards in my office. Let's go back there.
Suits me. 2 of those bruises showed, Scott.
What bruises?
Furman. Well, up under the hair, there were 2 bruises.
Why didn't you tell me?
I'm telling you now, Scott. You weren't here when I made my examination. This is the first time I've seen you since then.
Why didn't you spill the stuff about Furman's bruises when you were testifying at the inquest, Ben?
I'm a friend of yours. Do I want to put you in a spot where people can say you drove this champ to suicide by third-degreeing him too rough?
Ah, you're nuts. How bad was Furman's head?
Well, Scott, that didn't kill him, if that's what you mean. There's nothing the matter with his skull. Just a couple of bruises nobody had noticed, and unless they parted the hair. I thought you ought to know, though.
Well, thanks, Ben. Yes, who is it?
This is Fritz, the undertaker. Listen, Scott, there's a couple of ladies over here that want to take a look at Furman. Is it all right?
Who are they?
I don't know them. Strangers.
What do they want to see him for?
I don't know. Wait a minute.
Can't I please see him?
Why do you want to see him?
Well, I'm his wife.
Furman's wife?
Yes.
Oh, certainly. I'll be right over. So long, Ben. I've got to go back to the undertaker's.
So long, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
What do you want, Wally?
I want to talk to you a minute. Over here where we won't be seen.
Okay, what is it?
A couple of dames came into Fritz's undertaking place just as I was leaving. One of them's Hotshot Randall, a babe with a record as long as your arm. She's one of that mob you had me working on in New York last summer.
Does she know you?
Sure, but not by my right name. She thinks I'm a Detroit rum runner.
I mean, did she recognize you just now?
I don't think she saw me. Anyway, she didn't give me a tumble.
You don't know the other one?
No, she's a blonde, kind of pretty.
Okay, Wally. Stick around a while, but stay out of sight. Maybe I'll be bringing these dolls back with me.
Whatever you say, Chief.
Oh, there you are, Scott. I wondered when you were coming. This is Mrs. Furman, and this is Mrs. Crowder.
How do you do?
Hiya, Chief.
They just saw the body.
Mrs. Crowder, I thought your name was Randall.
What do you care, Chief? I'm not hurting your town any.
Don't call me Chief. You city slickers, I'm the town whittler.
Thank you for letting me see him.
It's all right, Mrs. Furman. But I'll have to ask you and your friends some questions. So if you'll just come across the street to headquarters, we'll get on with the routine. Before I ask any questions, I want to tell you something. Mrs. Furman, your husband didn't commit suicide. He was murdered.
Murdered? Ah, Chief, we got alibis. We were in New York, and we can prove it.
And you're likely to get a chance to. What brought you down here, anyway?
Murdered? Well, who's got a better right to come down here? She was still his wife, wasn't she? She's got a right to look out for her own interests, hasn't she?
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of something. Excuse me a second. I've got to make a phone call in the next room.
Arthur Hamill speaking.
This is Scott.
Yes?
Is Wally around?
No, he's not here. He said you told him to keep out of sight. I'll find him for you, though.
Right. Tell Wally I want him to go to New York tonight. Send Mason home to get some sleep. He'll have to take over Wally's night trick.
Oh,
Mr. Anderson, do you think I had anything to do with with his death?
I don't know, Mrs. Furman. I know he was killed. I also know he left you something like $500,000.
Wow. Dollars?
Dollars.
All right, Chief. Let's stop clowning. The kid here didn't have a thing to do with whatever you think happened.
No?
No. We read about Lester Furman committing suicide in yesterday morning's paper, and about there being something funny about it. And I persuaded her she ought to come down to deal
Mr.
with
Anderson, I wouldn't have done anything to hurt Lester. I left him because I wanted to leave him. I wouldn't have done anything to hurt him for money or anything else. Had I wanted money from him, I would only have had to ask him for it.
That's the truth, Chief. For years I've been telling Ethel she was a chump not to tap him. But she never would.
I wouldn't have hurt him.
Why'd you leave him then?
Oh, I don't know how to say it. The way we lived wasn't the way I wanted to live. I wanted... Oh, I don't know what. Anyway, after the baby died, I couldn't stand it anymore.
Excuse me. Hello? Oh, yeah, Hammer? You gave Wally the message? Yes, I want him to go to New York tonight. Okay, where is he? Home? He is home, huh? Okay, thanks. Mrs. Furman, this circular that got your husband in the jail. Did you ever see that picture before?
No. Why, that can't be. It's a snapshot I have. It's an enlargement of it.
Who else has one?
Nobody that I know of. I don't think anyone else could have one.
You still got yours?
Yes. Don't remember whether I've seen it recently. It's with some old papers and things. But I must have it.
Well, Mrs. Furman, it's stuff like that that's got to be checked up. Neither of us can dodge it. Now, there's two ways we can play it.
Yes?
Mrs. Furman, I can hold you here on suspicion until I've had time to investigate things. Or I can send one of my men with you to check up in New York.
Yes?
I'm willing to do that if you'll speed things up by helping them all you can. If you'll promise you won't try any tricks.
I promise. I'm as anxious as
All
you
right,
are.
all right. How'd you come down?
We drove down. We got a great big car. That's my car, see? That big green job across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my man can ride back with you, but no funny business.
Oh, don't worry, Chief.
Come on. We're going to see Wally Shane, the man who's going to drive to New York with you. Wally?
Who is it?
Scott, Wally.
Come in.
Ladies first.
Harry.
Ethel.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No use reaching with that gun, Wally. Already got you covered.
I guess you win, Scott.
Yeah, I guess I do. Come along back to headquarters with me like a good little boy. Wally, you're under arrest for murder.
Scott, the minute I saw those two dames going into Fritz's. Then when I was ducking out of sight, I ran into you, and I was afraid you'd take me over there with you, so I had to tell you one of them knew me. Figured you'd want to keep me under cover for a little while anyhow, long enough for me to get out of town.
Why didn't you get out, Wally?
Well, I dropped in home to pick up a couple of things before I scram, and that phone call of Hamill's catches me, and I fall for it. You see, Scott, I figured you're not on to me yet and are going to send me back to New York to see what dope I can get out of the dames. Well, you fooled me, brother.
I'd have thought you'd fall for that.
Then you didn't just stumble into all this accidentally, did you?
No, I didn't, Wally. I figured Furman had to be murdered by a copper. The no reward circular is well enough to make a good job of forging one. Incidentally, who printed that Furman circular for you, Wally?
I'm not dragging anyone in with me. It was only a poor mug that needed dough.
Okay, Wally. You see, I knew only a copper would be sure enough of the routine to know how things would be handled. Only one of my coppers would be able to walk into Furman's cell, bang him across the head, and string him up on the... Those bruises showed, you know.
They did? I guess I should have wrapped 2 towels around that blackjack. No, gee, Scott. I seem to have slipped up on a lot of things.
So that narrows it down to my coppers and... Well, you told me you knew the Randall woman. There it was. Only I figured you were working with him. What got you like this, Wally?
Same thing that gets most saps into jams, a yen for easy dough. And I was in New York, see, Scott, working that Dutton job for you, palling around with big-shot racketeers, passing for one of them, and...
Yes?
Well, I got to figuring that my work takes more brains than theirs, and they're taking in big money, and I'm working for coffee and cakes. That kind of stuff gets you, Scott. Anyway, it got me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I ran into this Ethel Furman, and she goes for me like a house afire. I liked her, too, see, so that's dandy. But one night she tells me about how much dough her husband's got and how he feels about her, and I get to thinking...
Thinking what?
I think she's nuts enough about me to marry me. So I get to thinking, suppose he died and left her his role.
Mm-hmm. I see.
So I run down to Philly a couple of afternoons and look Furman up, and everything looks fine. I took my time working out the details, meanwhile writing to her through a fellow in Detroit.
Go on. Finish one.
Well, I decided to do it. I sent those circulars out to a lot of places, not wanting to point too much to this one. And then when I was ready, I phoned Furman, telling him to come to Deerwood Hotel that night. And sometime before the next night, he'd hear from his wife, Ethel. I knew he'd fall for any trap that was baited with her. Only I guess I'm not as sharp as I thought I was, Scott.
Maybe you are, Wally. Maybe you are. That doesn't always help. Old man Camsley, Ben's father, used to have a saying, to a sharp knife comes a tough steak. Well, sorry you did it, Wally. I always liked you.
I know you did, Scott. I was counting on that.
So ends Dashiell Hammett's 2 Sharp Knives, starring Stuart Irwin. Tonight's story of suspense. Columbia presents these tales of mystery and intrigue and dangerous adventure for your relaxation and enjoyment. Next week, suspense will not be heard because of a special holiday broadcast. Columbia's review of the events of the year, 12 crowded months, which has been scheduled. On the following Tuesday, January 5th, there'll be another in this series. Same hour, 9:30 Eastern Wartime. William Spear, the producer, John Dietz, the director, and Bernard Herrmann, the composer-conductor, are collaborators on Suspense.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And the little gray cells. These will always catch the criminal. Hercule Poirot, Detective Extraordinary. From the thrill-packed pages of Agatha Christie's unforgettable stories of corpses, clues, and crime, Mutual now brings you, complete with bowler hat and magnificent mustache, your favorite detective, Hercule Poirot, starring Harold Huber in The Trail Led to Death.
Gorman. May I come in?
Most certainly, Monsieur Gorman.
I'm in a funny spot, Mr. Perrault. I hate clients who start that way myself. But
You are a detective, monsieur.
Yeah, I'm what you might call a competitor of yours. Gorman Detective Agency. No job too small or too large. You've heard of me?
I regret to say, monsieur, I have not.
Well, then how did you know I was a detective?
Oh, come, monsieur. The significant bulge under your shoulder. A shoulder holster for your gun, n'est-ce pas? And still, nothing furtive about your movements which would mark the criminal. Merely a certain slyness in your manner.
Hey, you don't seem to think much of detectives.
Being one myself, I am allowed to take liberties, eh?
Well, it doesn't matter. I've heard of you, and that's why I'm here, to get a little help.
Monsieur Gorman, I think you have made a mistake. My services are not for hire.
No, don't get on your high horse. I know how you've been helping Stevens down at Homicide, and I have a proposition here that will interest you.
Monsieur, I have found in my experience that propositions such as you speak of do not interest me.
Now, wait a minute. I know that compared to you, I'm just a punk. I haven't got your brains, and don't figure for a minute that I have. I'm used to dealing with mugs, and it's mugs I know how to handle. But, well, this thing is different. And all I ask is for you to listen to what I have to say. Then you can give me the brush off. You don't like it.
That seems reasonable, monsieur.
I've been hired to find a girl. Here's a picture. All I've got to go on is this picture, her name, Elizabeth Dorn, and the fact that she's a nurse.
This picture seems to be quite a few years old, monsieur.
You can say that again. That's just one of the things that makes it so tough. The people who want this gal located haven't seen her in 15 years, but they're sure anxious to find her now. $10,000 worth anxious. And that's why I came to you.
Pardon. I do not understand.
Look, this is big-time stuff. Ordinarily, I'd never get a look in on a case like this. But for some reason, I can't figure out these people came to me. I know when I'm licked, I tried every angle I could to find this dame. I figured that if she was 30 when this picture was taken, she'd be about 45 now. But I'm licked, and I admit it. But I don't want to give up that $10,000.
And you want me to find this Mademoiselle Dorn, eh?
I figured you might help me. I'd split the fee with you.
I am sorry, monsieur, but it is out of the question.
What? You mean you won't?
Exactly. But, Monsieur Gorman, I wish you luck, and here is one bit of advice.
What?
You might ask yourself why these people who have not seen Mademoiselle for 15 years are suddenly so anxious to locate her.
Who cares? $10,000 is $10,000.
And sometimes, monsieur, $10,000 has upon it the smell of the grave.
Hello?
Hello. Dilly?
Oh, Elizabeth. How are you, dear?
Worried, Dilly, worried sick.
Well, they haven't found you, have they?
No, thank heaven, but I feel this is the year.
Well, you've stayed away from them for over 10 years now. What makes you think they'll find you?
Oh, I'm not worried about myself, Dilly. It's Jimmy. If they ever get their hands on him,
Now, stop worrying. It won't do you, nor the boy, nor your work any good.
Oh, Dilly, you're a wonderful person and a real comfort to me. I don't know what I'd have done without you.
You'd have done very well. You always had courage and brains.
But I'm beginning to get that feeling again, Dilly, about things closing in on me.
Where's Jimmy?
I sent him away to the country.
Usual place?
Yes. And, Dilly, if anything happens to me...
Elizabeth, now
listen
stop
to me, Dilly.
imagining things.
Listen to me. If anything happens to me, I want you to take care of Jimmy.
You know I will.
He'll be 21 in another month. And if anything should happen, I want you to tell him the whole story.
I'll do better than that. I'll tell the police so that we can catch such thieving scoundrels.
All right, Dilly.
You're sure you don't want to tell the police now?
I can't, because then I'd have to tell Jimmy, too.
Well, all right, Elizabeth. You can count on me, dear.
Oh, heaven bless you, Dilly. Goodbye.
Oh, darn. Now I'll have to wait 20 minutes for the next bus.
Good evening. I said good evening. Look, I'm not trying to pick you up. I just want to know your name. Come here, you fool. I just want to ask you a few questions.
Let go of me. Let go of me. I'll scream. Help! Help!
Now listen. Is your name Dawn? Is it? If I let you go, will you answer me? Just shake your head, yes or no.
No, my name isn't Dawn. And I'm going to call the police. Help! Police! Help!
If you hadn't yelled, you poor fool, you might still be alive.
Good morning, Monsieur Stevens. Well, you are indeed a faithful public servant. Whenever I come to your office, I find you working diligently at your desk, eh?
Well, being the head of the homicide department in this town is no joke, Poirot. But today I can relax. Things have been pretty quiet around here lately.
Around here, perhaps. But what about the borough of Queens? Was it not there that a nurse by the name of Molly Ward was killed last night?
Yeah. Too bad, but that's just a routine job. Looks like a mugging to me. I've got Collins on it.
Do you have a picture of this Mademoiselle Ward?
Sure. Here's the police picture taken out there.
Her face is badly battered.
Well, that's what you'd expect when she's been belted over the head with a blackjack.
Yes, mon ami. But why should a poor, unimportant nurse by the name of Mademoiselle Molly Ward be selected for being hit over the head, and in such a lonely section of the city?
She wasn't selected, Poirot. Some guy was waiting around and tried to mug her and take her purse. She put up a fight and buffo.
Perhaps. Dis donc, what do you know of a private detective named Tom Gorman?
Gorman Detective Agency. No job too large or too small. Tom's a small-time operator. He'll chisel a little, but nothing serious. Hey, wait a minute, Poirot. You know something I don't. How is this Gorman hooked up with a nurse mugging?
I don't know that he is, mon vieux, but he came to me yesterday with a...
Police headquarters, Stephen speaking. What? Where? I'll be right over. Come on, Poirot. Another nurse has just been knocked off. Right in General Hospital. Miss Wood, I understand you're the head nurse here.
Why, yes, I am.
I'm Inspector Stevens of the New York Police, and this is Hercule Poirot.
Oh, yes, I've heard of Mr. Perot. If anyone can solve this brutal killing, I'm certain he can.
You are most kind, mademoiselle, but it is the good Stevens who is the authority on mugging.
No, wait a minute, Poirot. I didn't say this was a case of mugging, or that it has anything to do with that murder of the nurse out in Queens.
But you will admit, mon ami, that the coincidence of two dead nurses gives one furiously to think, n'est-ce pas?
Well, I don't know about this other nurse you're discussing, but I'm willing to swear that Miss Dilly's death was no case of mugging.
What makes you say that?
Because of the man who came here to see us.
What man? What did he look like?
Well, it's difficult to describe what the man looked like. All I remember is he was of medium height and wore a blue pinstripe suit.
Is it a custom at this hospital to permit nurses to have visitors?
As a matter of fact, Mr. Perot, it's not. This man was so insistent that I allowed Miss Dilly to come down to the reception room.
What happened then?
I don't know, Inspector. When she came into the room, I left.
But is it possible, mademoiselle, that you overheard perhaps a bit of their conversation before you closed the door?
I do remember hearing him ask her if she knew a woman by the name of Elizabeth Dawn. But then I'd closed the door and couldn't hear any more.
Tiens, that is most interesting. Did you know this, Mademoiselle Dawn?
No, I'd heard of her. She worked here several years before I came. I've been told that in addition to being an excellent nurse, she was quite a beautiful woman.
Did the unfortunate Miss Dilly know Elizabeth Dawn?
Why, I really couldn't say.
Come on, Poirot. We've got to lay our hands on that guy in a blue pinstripe suit. Let's get out of here.
A little moment, please, Stevens. Perhaps Mademoiselle Wood can inform us if she heard any sounds or screams in the reception room when she left Mademoiselle Dilly alone with the visitor.
No, I couldn't. I'd gone upstairs to my office to check into hospital matters. I first noticed that Miss Dilly hadn't returned to her ward when I checked it about an hour later.
Poirot, there's something behind all this.
How perceptive of you, mon ami. There is indeed. But as yet, it is only a, formless shadow. Perhaps a visit to the Gorman Detective Agency will help us to fill in an outline.
Hey, open up in there. This is the police.
Okay. Keep your shirt on. I'm coming.
Take your shoulder away from the door, Stevens. He will open it voluntarily.
Oh, it's you, Inspector.
All right, Gorman, let us in. We want to talk to you.
Make yourselves at home. How are you, Perot?
I am well, and most happy to see that you are wearing a gray suit. Blue pinstripes is not a healthy pattern just now.
What's on your mind, Inspector?
Murder, Gorman.
Look, I'm a detective, but I don't go out and make my own crimes. If you're talking about that nurse, you're wasting your time. I know nothing about it.
Who are you trying to kid, Gorman? 2 nurses have been killed.
What?
Both by the same method, and you stand there and try to tell me, as far as you're concerned, it's all brand new.
2 of them.
Inspector Stevens has the proper score, Monsieur Gorman. We have just come from the hospital. A nurse by the name of Mademoiselle Dilly was killed there by a man who inquired for Elizabeth Dawn.
Hey, Poirot, look at this.
Hey, give me that.
Oh, not so fast, Gorman. Yeah. What do you make of it, Poirot?
Perhaps my colleague can explain to us why the name of Sheila Dilly appears on his calendar pad.
I was going to try and see her tonight. You know, I'm trying to find this Dawn woman, and I got a tip that Billy might know her whereabouts.
That's a good one. Come on, Poirot. Let's take him down to headquarters. He'll talk there.
Now, wait a minute, Stevens. I'm on the level. All I'm trying to do is find Elizabeth Dawn for my clients. One of the few clues I have is that she came from Montana, having spent several years there. This Dilly woman also hails from there.
Then it is merely coincidence that her name appears on your calendar, Monsieur Gorman.
Of course, Perrault. I'm getting $10,000 for finding this dame, but if I smelled murder anywhere in the deal, I'd drop it like a shot.
I have not accused you of these murders. But you have some information, and you would be most wise to give it to me.
Well, Mr. Perrault, it seems as our interview yesterday is back for a return engagement. Only this time, you're a little more interested in what I have to say.
I can only repeat what I said then, Monsieur Gorman. My services are not for hire, but I dislike murder.
You and Stevens are barking up the wrong tree. What makes you think these two killings are connected with what I'm working on?
Oh, come. Is it not apparent to you that other people are interested in the whereabouts of Mademoiselle Dawn? Also, it seems that these people have not your scruples about murder.
Sorry, Mr. Perrault, but I can't go along with it that these other guys are connected with my client.
But the little gray cells, Monsieur Gorman, they tell me you are making a bad mistake.
Well, they don't talk to me, but the 10,000 does.
Did your client tell you why he is seeking this Dawn woman?
Yeah. He told me that she nursed a sister of his back to health in Montana, and he wants to reward her now.
And you believe his story?
Not a word of it. But I'm going on the theory that his money's not counterfeit.
Now, look here, Gorman. I don't believe you're innocent about these two killings. I got a good mind to lock you up.
I told you I know nothing about them. Last night I was up all night in a card game, and I can prove it. As for this dilly rap, I don't have a blue pinstripe suit, and you can see that for yourself.
Then you will not tell us the name of your client?
Not a chance. I gave my word. I'll tell you what I'll do, Mr. Perrault. Give me 24 hours. If I find that my client hired those guys to knock off those two nurses, I'll turn them into you.
Very well, Monsieur Gorman. You have made your own bargain. I hope it will be to your advantage.
Calm down, Poirot. You'll wear out the floor of my office.
What is the matter with those Montana police? The answer to our teletype should have been here hours ago.
Hey, what's wrong with you, Poirot? I've never seen you so nervous before.
It is the delay of that teletype. I know it will give us the motive for those killings.
Well, I wouldn't worry about that. Even if those Montana cops don't send through your message, Gorman's bound to show up here tonight and give us the lead on the murderers.
Sacre bleu, Stevens, never have you been so naive. You do not mean to tell me that you trust Monsieur Gorman.
Well, frankly, Poirot, I've been working on another theory.
And you have been keeping it a secret from me, monsieur? But why?
Well, I didn't have it all worked out. But the way I figure it is, a maniac's been responsible for these killings, and unless I miss my guess, we're in for a mess of nurses' deaths.
A maniac? Tell me, Stevens, how do you arrive at this startling conclusion?
Oh, it's simple. Some guy who lost a wife or someone else close to him because Elizabeth Dawn botched up the job of nursing her has gone out of his mind and is going around killing all the nurses he can find.
Mon ami, it is a pity that all that thought should be wasted on such a worthless theory.
Now, oh, come on, Poirot. That message from Montana's coming in over the teletype now.
Excellent. Hurry, Stevens.
Well, now we'll find out something.
Yes, mon brave. I think we begin to arrive in the vicinity of somewhere.
Elizabeth Dawn, resident of Butte, 1927 to 1930. Registered nurse. Employed last 2 years here by James and Ellen Fenway as nurse for James Fenway II. All trace lost of her after death of James and Ellen Fenway when she disappeared with their child, adopted by her. Last known to have worked for Dr. Henry Moncton in New York City.
Quickly, Stevens.
Where to?
To find this Dr. Moncton.
Yes, gentlemen, I understand you're from the police. What can I do for you?
Forgive this intrusion, Dr. Moncton, but we would like some information upon a nurse whom you employed some years ago. Her name was Elizabeth Dawn.
Well, gentlemen, you're fortunate. As you see, I'm an old man. My memory isn't what it was in my youth. There have been a lot of people inquiring about Miss Dawn lately.
Who are they? What do they look like?
I don't think they knew each other. One was a youngish, heavy-set man with a face like a bull.
Monsieur Gorman?
That isn't the name he gave me.
It wouldn't be.
And the other?
The other was a fair man in a blue pinstripe suit.
Thank you. But about Mademoiselle Dawn?
Oh, yes. Well, Miss Dawn was an extraordinarily good nurse. Very intelligent, and as I remember, very nice to look at.
Is that all you know about her?
Well, really, sir, I don't make it a habit to become great friends with my nurses.
But of course not, Doctor. But perhaps you knew of some friends Mademoiselle Dawn had who might be able to help us, eh? Believe us, Doctor. It is most important.
Well, that's the same question that the others asked me, and I must have given them the wrong information.
What makes you say that?
Well, they came to me a few days ago, and I managed to recall with some difficulty that Miss Dawn did have one close friend, a Miss Dilly.
Dilly? Why, that's...
Exactly, Stevens. A most logical maniac, n'est-ce pas? Please go on, Doctor.
Well, then they came back today.
Together this time, Doctor?
No, still separately. And they told me I must have had the wrong name. Well, then it came to me. I had looked into my files meanwhile, and I found that Miss Dawn had one close friend who used to look after her little boy.
Yes, Doctor. And the name of the friend?
Dillon. Miss Emma Dillon, yes. 957 West 2nd Street. You see, gentlemen, that was how I happened to make the mistake in names. Miss Dawn used to call her Dilly. A natural mistake on my part.
Most natural, Doctor. And most costly. And fatal for poor Mademoiselle Dilly. Come, Stevens. Let us march.
This time I'm way ahead of you, Poirot. We've got to get to Miss Dillon, but fast.
I beg your pardon. You're Miss Dillon, aren't you?
Oh, why, yes.
I didn't mean to frighten you. I just want to talk to you about a nursing assignment.
Oh.
My name is Arnold Smith.
Oh, of course, Mr. Smith. If you'll come upstairs, I'll be happy to discuss it with you.
Yes. Very kind of you to see me like this. I need your help pretty badly.
Well, it's difficult for a nurse to keep office hours.
Must be tough to have to climb stairs like these every day.
Oh, I really don't mind. I'm rather used to it.
You live all alone?
Yes, it's too late to change my way of living now. Well, here we are.
Thank you.
Why are you locking the door?
Now, don't you be alarmed. But it's necessary that we aren't disturbed.
Why? What could you possibly...
I'm looking for certain information, Miss Dillon, about a friend of yours. An old friend. A Miss Elizabeth Dawn.
I don't know anyone by that name.
Oh. Well, now you see why I locked the door. It may be necessary for me to jolt your memory.
Stay away from me.
Now, you may as well know the truth. And tell it. Dr. Monkton told me you knew her. Now, come out with it. Out with it. Where is she?
Put that picture down.
No wonder we couldn't find Elizabeth Dawn. We were looking for a nurse, and all the time she was right under our noses. Well, I think I'll just take this along with me in case some other people come around looking for Elizabeth. Who would have thought that Elizabeth Dawn, who was a nurse, could have become Diana Rogers, the famous actress?
What are you going to do? Oh.
Goodbye, Miss Dillon.
Miss Dillon, open the door. Miss Dillon, are you all right?
It wasn't locked.
Holy smoke.
Help, stop him. Don't stay away from me.
It's all right, Miss Dillon. I'm a detective. Tell me what happened.
A man came. He found out that Elizabeth Dawn was Diana Rogers. He took all the pictures of her. Got to stop it.
Dead. Diana Rogers.
Miss Dillon! Miss Dillon, this is the police. Open the door.
This is a fine mess. That door will hold till I get out the window.
All right, stay where you are, Gorman.
Okay, Inspector. Okay, you got me.
Alas, mon ami, we were too late for the poor Miss Dillon.
Yeah, but not too late to catch a murderer. Come along with us, Gorman.
I tell you, I didn't do it, Inspector. I didn't do it.
Now, that line has whiskers on it. You're guilty, and don't try to deny it.
Look, Mr. Perot, you know I didn't knock off that nurse.
Don't pay any attention to him, Poirot. This case is all wrapped up.
Pardon, mon ami, but is it not significant to you that Monsieur Gorman did not have the murder weapon on his person?
What's that got to do with it? I rush into a room, find an old dame with her head bashed in, and the guy hustling out through a window. That's all the proof I need.
There is another fact to be considered, Stevens. Monsieur Gorman is not psychologically capable of committing murder.
Sorry, Poirot, but I don't agree with you.
One little moment, Monsieur, but I should like to ask Monsieur Gorman a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last night you said you would tell us the name of your client if you discovered him to be a murderer. If you are not guilty, then is it not obvious that your employer is?
Keep going.
There is not much further I can go unless you tell me his name.
I've changed my mind.
Why, he's a Welcher in the bargain, Poirot.
Monsieur, you are making a grave mistake. You still refuse to tell us the name of your client.
That's right.
Then you must know where Mademoiselle Dawn is.
You're crazy.
Not at all, monsieur. You merely believe you will make better use of your information than we. But come, monsieur, a bargain, eh? If you will tell me where Mademoiselle Dawn is, I will tell you why your employer is so anxious to get in touch with her.
How do you know that, Poirot?
From spending some time with the newspaper files of Butte, Montana, printed 15 years ago.
Okay, that's a deal.
15 years ago, James and Ellen Fenway died in a train accident. Their estate, which consisted of 4 of the largest silver mines in the West, was left to their only heir, James Fenway II.
Yeah, I remember the kid from the teletype.
James Fenway's will appointed as trustees the board of directors of the Archer Company of Montana.
Hey, I think I'm beginning to get it.
But the most important thing is that the child was not to receive his ownership of the mines until he reached his 21st birthday.
Some birthday present.
And from the teletype Inspector Stevens and I received, it is apparent that someone of influence on the Archer Company board is looking for Mademoiselle Dawn.
Sure, I've got the whole picture. They don't want the kid to inherit the mines, so they're trying to find him and bump him off.
Alas, that is the unhappy situation. Now, Monsieur Gorman, where is Mademoiselle Dawn?
Okay, I'll pay off on my end of the deal. She's over in Jersey with the Fenway kid. Here, I'll write down the address for you.
Do not take such needless pains. You are lying.
I'm only trying to tell you where the darn dame is.
All the facts show you are wrong. She is here in New York.
Let him go, Poirot. We don't need him anymore.
You cannot release him, mon ami. He would not be safe the moment he leaves here.
Why, you dirty double-crosser.
Monsieur, it is you who has given the cross double by lying to me. And you're also not clever enough to realize that to know the whereabouts of Mademoiselle Dawn is fatal.
Okay, but what do we do next, Poirot?
We go back to the Dillon apartment, Stevens, and use the little gray cells. It is there that we must find the clue leading to Mademoiselle Dawn.
I don't know, Poirot. We've been through this place with a fine-tooth comb and haven't found a thing.
But we cannot allow ourselves to fail, mon frère. Others found things here that helped them.
We've ripped open drawers, turned up carpets, and all we've gotten out of the whole thing is a wrecked apartment.
Wait, what have you there in your hand?
Some old theater programs. Yeah, they belong in this trash basket.
No, let me see them.
Huh? They don't mean anything except that this Dillon dame liked the theater.
This gives one furiously to think.
What are you looking at? Pictures?
No, mon ami. I have found a most amazing coincidence in all these programs. Regard.
What's that?
It seems that there is one name which appears in every one of them.
So what? Miss Dillon was a fan of someone. That happens all the time.
But the first program is 10 years old, and it shows an actress named Diana Rogers playing a most insignificant role. Then look at this next one, 7 months later. And this one, 2 years after that. In each play, she acted a role of increasing importance. And this last play, Day of Victory. Now she is the star.
I still don't get...
Mon Dieu, that is it, Stevens. You recall how everyone told us that Mademoiselle Dawn was beautiful?
Yeah, but what's that?
Well, we have found her. Elizabeth Dawn is Diana Rogers.
Holy catfish. I know where she is. That play you mentioned is still on Broadway.
Quickly, Stevens, or we will be too late to stop a return performance of Murder.
This is her dressing room, Mr. Chisholm. Open up, Elizabeth. This is Michael Chisholm. Come on, let us in. It's been a long time, Elizabeth.
What do you want, Mr. Chisholm?
You know what we want. We want to know where the boy is.
I'll make her talk, Mr. Chisholm.
I prefer the gentler method, Smith. Well, Elizabeth?
Why do you think I took him and ran away from Montana after his parents died?
I've often wondered.
I knew that you'd been stealing from Mr. Fenway. I also knew that you intended to put the boy out of the way so that you could take over the mines.
How true, my dear. But unfortunately for you, your accusations will never be heard outside of this room.
What are you going to do?
Now, Mr. Chisholm? No, Smith. Not just yet. There's a matter of Miss Dorn. I beg your pardon. Miss Rogers signing this sheet of paper.
What is it?
The Fenway boy won't be 21 for 2 more days. Until that time, you're his legal guardian. This paper, signed by you, will transfer his shares in the silver mines to me and my company. Now, here's a check for $50,000.
50,000? Why, it's worth $5 million.
Let's not be mercenary. Now, unless you take this, I'll turn you over to Mr. Smith here. He's already killed 3 women. A few more won't really matter.
I won't do it.
Well, there are ways of making you do it.
You're hurting me.
All right, put up your hands.
It would be most advisable, monsieur. And 1,000 thanks for the confession.
Smith, you blundering idiot. You said we were safe.
Ah, but you must permit your employee at least one miscalculation. It is only human.
Gentlemen, I don't know how to thank you.
Well, now, that's all right.
There is one way you can thank us, mademoiselle.
What is that?
By allowing us to sit in your theater and watch you give your finest performance.
Be sure to listen next week when Agatha Christie, America's favorite mystery writer, brings you her favorite detective, Hercule Poirot, starring Harold Huber in Murder is a Private Affair. Music for Hercule Poirot is composed and conducted by Sylvan Levin. The program is directed by Carl Eastman. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Lux presents Hollywood. Lever Brothers Company, the makers of Lux Toilet Soap, bring you the Lux Radio Theater, starring Barbara Stanwyck, Robert Young, and Frank Lovejoy in Goodbye, My Fancy. Ladies and gentlemen, your producer, Mr. William Keeley.
Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure that if you had a choice of going back into the past and reliving a part of your lives, a great many of you would pick your college days. Or perhaps rather than relive them, you'd just like to return there now, be awarded an honorary degree for your present accomplishments, and maybe rekindle an old romance. That's what our heroine does in tonight's play, which is based on the stage play Goodbye, My Fancy by Fay Kanan. As our stars of this intriguing story from the Warner Brothers Studios, we have one of Hollywood's finest actresses, Barbara Stanwyck, and co-starring in their original roles, Frank Lovejoy and Robert Young, who make it, rather difficult for Barbara to make up her mind between the old romance and the new. And for romance, a young man's fancy naturally turns to lovely girls with perfect complexions. We'd like to recommend Lux Toilet Soap for that fine beauty care. There is no better guarantee for romance than a radiant complexion. Now, Goodbye, My Fancy, starring Barbara Stanwyck as Agatha Reed, Robert Young as Dr. Jim Merrill, and Frank Lovejoy as Matt Cole. Among the members of the United States Congress, few are more widely respected and certainly none is more attractive than the Honorable Agatha Reed. Miss Reed has just returned to her office, lightly battle-worn, after another harrowing day in the cause of better government.
All right, Woody, what's the mail?
Another 1,000 or so letters. Make another speech like that last one, and you'll get the post office out of the red.
What's this one?
Marion Dennis, radio interview about your book.
Oh, I've been avoiding her for weeks. All right, but not before the middle of June.
What about this invitation? It's from Good Hope College.
You know I haven't time to... Why, it's from Good Hope.
Yeah, that's what I said. Then you said...
Woody, they want to give me an honorary degree.
Well, what's so special about that? You turned down Wellesley without blinking an eye.
But you don't understand. I went to Good Hope.
Oh, pardon me.
Oh, take a letter.
Shall I type it on parchment?
Special delivery To Dr. James Merrill, President, Good Hope College, Good Hope, Massachusetts. My dear Jim, I can't tell you how... No, you'd better make that... Dear Dr. Merrill, I can't tell you how happy I was to receive your gracious invitation to return to Good Hope for an honorary degree. Good Hope has always been close to me, and nothing short of a congressional crisis will keep me away. And if I may be sentimental, it would give me great pleasure to be able to stay in my old rooms. Sincerely, Agatha Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Griswold.
Is he in? Dr. Merrill in his office?
I believe he's alone, Mr. Griswold, but perhaps
Never mind. I'm going in. Jim, I've got to talk to you.
Good. Well, sit down, won't you?
Last night, I wrote a letter to Agatha Reed. As chairman of the Board of Trustees, I thought it would be nice to let her know how happy we all are that she accepted your invitation.
Well, that was very thoughtful.
Then 10 minutes after the letter was mailed, my wife told me.
Your wife told you what?
That she used to be Agatha Reed's classmate.
Oh, I thought you knew.
And that Agatha Reed was expelled for staying out all night.
Yes, she was.
We're giving an honorary degree to a woman who was once expelled from here? Now, look, Jim, we're going to call the whole thing off.
I'm afraid it's too late for that, Claude. I've given the announcement to the papers. And Real Magazine is sending a man up to cover the commencement.
Real Mag? Oh, that's great. If they ever find out about her being expelled, we'll all wind up on the cover. There were a dozen women to choose from, but you've got to pick a hot potato like Agatha Reed. Why?
Well, Good Hope meted out some pretty harsh punishment to her. I think it's time we told her we were sorry. What's more, she's one of the most outstanding women in the nation. A woman who's won recognition as a columnist, war correspondent, and author.
We've got to go through with it, huh?
Yes, and stop worrying.
And it's entirely in your hands, Jim. She's your baby till after commencement.
Thank you, Claude. I find the prospect very interesting.
You may as well go on home, Woody. Our train doesn't leave until midnight. You can meet me at the station. What about my warm milk?
Room service is sending it up. Maybe I should tell him to put it in a baby bottle.
Meaning what?
Oh, this trip back to the cradle. A crowded calendar, 2 important bills coming out of committee, election 4 months away, and we're off to braid a daisy chain at some college.
Now, look, Woody, I'm going to enjoy this weekend. I'm going to be sentimental. I'm going to cry. I'm going to walk barefoot down memory lane with ivy entwined in my hair. And if you don't like it, you don't have to look.
I'll bring my dark glasses.
Do that. Oh, and leave the door unlocked for room service, will you? The door's open. Just put the milk on the table, please.
Just milk today? No butter, eggs, yummy yogurt?
Matt!
That's right, Aggie. Real Magazine's favorite photographer. And yours.
Matt!
Well, you just said that. Usual greeting after 5 years is, well, this is a surprise.
I'm sorry you caught me off guard.
I didn't think that was possible.
I see you haven't changed.
Oh, neither have you. A little more dignified, perhaps. A little more, shall we say, refined. But just as attractive as ever.
I thought you were in Europe.
Well, I got back this afternoon. I thought I'd find out about that date we had in Paris. When you didn't show up for 5 years, I began to wonder. Is it on or off?
I'm sure you didn't come here to dig all that up.
You mind telling me why you didn't show up?
Well, does it matter now?
Well, of course it matters. When a woman runs out on a man, he ought to know why. Helps him the next time.
I suppose it never occurred to you that I might have been in love with someone else.
Well, it occurred to me, but I rejected it.
Really? Why?
Well, because I've kept tabs on you, Aggie. That hasn't been hard, not with a congresswoman. Congratulations. You're doing a great job.
What about before I was a congresswoman?
Well, those were my years.
And the years before that?
Oh. Well, why haven't you done something about the guy?
Maybe I will. Now, do you mind, Matt? I'm in the midst of packing. I want you to leave.
Did you ever get those pictures I sent you from China?
Yes, I did.
Did you like the one of yourself? The one on the Orient Express nearing Paris.
No, I didn't like it.
Why not?
Well, the one time you don't expect to be photographed is asleep in a train compartment. Besides, the occasion wasn't exactly the kind of thing I wanted recorded for posterity.
That's funny. I thought it had the makings of one of the big moments of history. Come to think of it, you did too.
Oh, Matt, please. It was fun, but war has a way of making little moments seem big at the time.
Well, that's very penetrating. May I quote you sometime?
Well, I'm sorry if I said it badly, but it's true. We were a nice snapshot, but never a family portrait.
Oh, I get it. It's subtle, but I get it.
You've got to go now. I have to catch the New Yorker at midnight.
The New Yorker?
Yes, and I haven't even started to
The
pack
New
up.
Yorker. Here I've been holding you up with idle chit-chat, and all the time we're going to be traveling companions.
You're going to be on that train?
Happy coincidence, just like the good old Orient Express.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
I know what trains do to some people. So long, Aggie. I'll see you on the New Yorker.
Western Union, please. This is Agatha Reed. I want to send a straight wire to Dr. James Merrill, Good Hope College, Good Hope, Massachusetts. Have you got that? Please don't have anyone meet train. Have decided to come by plane. Sign it Agatha Reed. Thank you. Yes?
Room service, Miss Reed.
Come in.
Your warm milk, Miss Reed.
I've changed my mind. Just bring me a double brandy. So this is it, huh? Dear old school days. Oh, Woody, just look. Oh, this wonderful, wonderful dormitory. My old rooms, the same furniture, the same pictures, everything just the way it was. Looks fierce, doesn't it? Do you know what those girls told me? They moved all these things up from the basement just for me. Oh, I haven't cried in years. It feels wonderful.
Look, if you're such a big shot, how come nobody bothered to meet you?
Because I purposely stopped the taxi 2 blocks away. That was memory lane we walked through.
That alfalfa field is memory lane?
I'm sorry for you, Woody, if you don't have something like this to remember. Come in.
I'm sorry to bother you, Miss Reed.
Oh, I'm the one who should be sorry, dear, putting you out of your rooms like this.
Oh, no. Mary Nell and I think it's the greatest honor we've ever known. It's this, Miss Reed, your book, Women in the Vanguard.
If you'll pardon me, Agatha, I'll run out and tear down some ivy for my hair. A wreath, you know.
Oh, Woody, really. And now, what about the book?
Well, Dr. Pitt said we all ought to read it.
Your political science teacher?
No, physics. In his classes, you learn about everything.
Well, it sounds as if I'd like to know him.
I was wondering if you'd autograph it for me.
I'd love to. Now, what name do I write?
Virginia. Would you make it Ginny? Ginny Merrill.
Ginny Merrill. Will your parents be here for commencement?
There's just my father. Mother died 4 years ago.
Oh. Does your father have to come very far?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, he's...
You're Jim Merrill's daughter, aren't you?
Why, yes.
Oh, I might have known. I knew your father very well. He was my favorite professor.
What was he like, Miss Reed?
Oh, he was very handsome. All the girls were in love with him.
They still are. But that's not what I meant. Was he a good teacher?
He was a wonderful teacher.
I wish he were still a teacher.
Oh? Is being president of a college so bad?
It's different.
Different?
I'd better be going, Miss Reed. Is it all right if I tell my father you're here? I'm sure he must be anxious to see you.
Perhaps I'd better walk over to his office.
Oh, no. He'll want to call on you. And thanks again, Miss Reed. Oh, excuse me.
That's all right. We just had a phone call, Real Magazine. They're covering your weekend here.
Oh, how nice.
Oh, it's better than that. They're sending Matt Cole.
Who did you say?
Matt Cole, the war photographer.
You're joking. Why should they send him here? This isn't his type of thing at all.
Yeah, but why the blood pressure?
Get Real Magazine on the phone immediately. I'll put a stop to this right now.
Why bother?
I want to bother, and don't argue.
Okay. Hello, get me New York. Yeah, Real Magazine.
I want to speak to Bronson personally.
Make that person to person to Mr. Bronson, will you? That's right. He owns the magazine. Is this a matter of life and death?
I asked you not to argue. Just get Bronson on the phone.
I can't. The circuits are busy.
Give me the phone. Hello? This is Agatha Reed. On that call to Real Magazine, it's most important.
This is a crisis?
I'd appreciate it if you do everything you possibly can. Come in. Jim.
Agatha, it's been a long time.
20 years.
I'm taking advantage of my position. The entire college is waiting to meet you.
I'm overcome. I mean it, Jim.
My daughter mentioned your secretary was with you.
Woody's downstairs with the telephone operator. There's an important call I'm trying to put through.
Oh, I'm glad we're alone. You're looking very well, Agatha.
Thank you, Jim.
I suppose you realize you're in for quite a weekend.
Yes, I've seen the agenda.
We start in an hour with your official reception. I can turn my back if you'd like to escape.
I wouldn't think of it. Vanity, I guess. I suppose everyone dreams of coming back for an honorary degree. It's a popular ambition, like wanting a mink coat.
Or to be president.
Yes. How does it feel?
Well, it's never dull. The faces change so often. And with so much youth around, you actually get the feeling you're preserving your own.
Well, your daughter should keep you young. She's a lovely child. No, that's wrong. She's not a child. What are we at that age, Jim? That wonderful, terrible in-between time. You've seen so many of us.
Yeah, well, tell me about yourself, Agatha. Have you been happy?
Well, I've been busy.
Yes, I've followed your career very closely.
In that case, I won't have to bring you up to date on the past 20 years.
No, only the first year. I've never quite caught up with that first year. Perhaps it's my vanity. But all these years, I've wondered what happened. Why you just disappeared.
Oh, it was very stupid of me to get caught climbing in my window at 5 a.m. I hope the girls are more expert now.
I wouldn't know. I'm not up on the statistics.
Listen, Jim, it would have made no difference to the trustees that you were the man and that we were planning to be married. I would have been kicked out anyway, only you would have been kicked out with me.
I thought we decided to take that chance.
I couldn't let you do it. They were already eyeing you for the presidency.
Well, where did you go? My letters came back. When I phoned your home, they said they didn't know where you were.
Yes, I made them promise. Once I weakened and started to write you a letter, but I never did finish it. And then later on, I read about your marriage.
Yes. Did Ginny tell you anything about her mother?
No.
She was a wonderful woman. We had a lot of things in common. That helped to balance the things we didn't have. She died 4 years ago.
Why did you feel that you had to tell me that?
I don't know exactly, I suppose.
What are you trying to say, Jim?
You came up here this weekend. Why?
Well, don't you remember? You invited me.
I carried that invitation around for 2 years before I sent it.
Oh, that was silly, Jim. I answered it as soon as I got it.
Bronson's in Chicago. I just told... Oh, sorry if I interrupted.
That's quite all right. I was just leaving.
Dr. Merrill, my secretary and right arm, Miss Wood.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Oh, Miss Reed, did I tell you it's wonderful to have you back?
Yes, you did, Dr. Merrill. But it's good to hear it again.
I'll see you at the reception. There'll be a committee calling for you at 4 o'clock. Oh, it's nice to have you here, too, Miss Wood.
Thank you. Rexy's nice looking, isn't he?
Yes, isn't he?
Looked mighty cozy just now, talking over old history exams.
You know what's wrong with you? You're so used to having your thumb in every Washington pie that you can't...
stop filibustering.
All right, Woody, it's so.
What so?
Just what you're thinking.
Oh.
He's the first man I ever loved.
He's what?
Maybe the only one. The truth is, I'd marry him tomorrow if he asked me.
Oh, you're kidding, aren't you?
What's the matter? Are you against marriage, too?
Well, of course not, but you're smack in the middle of an election campaign and 100 other things. Your life's too busy.
Oh, there's quite a difference between a busy life and a full one. I thought you'd be happy for me.
Well, what do you expect? I don't even know the guy.
Well, I know him. Oh, this isn't just a whim, Woody. This is something I've waited for and thought about for 20 years. Maybe the most important thing in my whole life. That's why I don't want anything to spoil it. That's why I don't want... What about the phone call?
Phone call?
Mr. Bronson, Real Magazine.
Oh, that. They're expecting him back at his hotel.
Anything I can do?
Oh, all right, Matt. Come on in. What do you think you're doing here?
My job. I'm a photographer.
You don't expect me to believe they picked you for an assignment like this, do you?
Well, as a matter of fact, I asked for it. I had a great idea for a layout. The Honorable Agatha Reed and how she grew.
Don't try anything. I'm warning you, Matt.
Yes, ma'am.
This is my secretary, Miss Wood.
Hi.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. Would you mind directing me to the president's office?
Why?
I'm supposed to check in with the old codger.
Well, you'll probably find the old codger in the administration building.
Now, where might that be?
Woody?
Let's go, Mr. Cole.
Thanks, Woody. I wouldn't want him to get lost.
Well, if I do, I'll send up a flare.
Oh, I'll get it. Hello? Oh, yes, Mr. Bronson. We've been trying all over to find you. I mean, well,
say something.
We just wanted to tell you we decided to renew our subscription. You can tell me something, Mr. Cole. Why was the Honorable so upset about you coming up here?
She thinks I'm in the employ of a foreign government.
Oh, come on, Gib. You're about as innocent as a rattlesnake.
Tell me he's the president of this seminary.
I thought you knew.
Oh, thanks for telling me.
You tricked me. Wild horses wouldn't have dragged that out of me.
Forget it. What am I worried about? If I can't take her away from some old Mr. Chips, I'll quit the business.
Ha!
What does that mean?
Get out that flare, Mr. Cole. You're going to need it.
Act 2 of Goodbye, My Fancy, starring Barbara Stanwyck as Agatha Reed, Frank Lovejoy as Matt Cole, and Robert Young as Dr. Jim Merrill. The faculty reception in honor of Agatha Reed is in full progress. Among those present are Nat Cole and a professor of physics named Dr. Pitt.
You care for a cup of punch, Mr. Cole?
Oh, thank you. You have to go through this every year, Dr. Pitt.
Occupational hazard. But I'm rather enjoying it.
You mean it can be worse than this?
It's just that this is my last faculty reception. Good Hope and I'll soon be going our separate ways. I haven't been exactly happy under the present management.
With Dr. Merrill?
Oh, no. Claude Griswold, our illustrious chairman of the board.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Mr. Cole, let's drink to Saturday morning.
What's with Saturday morning?
Oh, that's when I'll be asked to resign. I shall take my departure in a blaze of futile glory.
You're going to blow up the physics building?
Not exactly. But there will be an explosion of a kind.
What kind, Dr. Pitt?
That's my little secret, Mr. Cole. Oh, this punch, it's not very stimulating, is it?
Oh, you're wrong, Dr. Pitt. I feel a noticeable lift. As a matter of fact,
Is there something wrong, Mr. Cole?
Seems our guest of honor has disappeared.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I saw Miss Reed and Dr. Merrill walk out there to the terrace just a moment ago.
Well, that should make a charming picture for the magazine. Excuse me, Dr. Pitt.
I suppose I had no right to take you out here, Agatha. But there won't be many opportunities to be alone. And there's so much I want to say.
We had the same problem 20 years ago, Jim. Until we discovered the amphitheater. Remember?
I was just about to suggest it. The usual time, the reception will be over by then.
The usual time. And thank you for remembering.
How could I ever? Oh, Mr. Cole.
I'm sorry if I startled you, Doctor, but the layout wouldn't be complete without a picture of the president and his number one graduate.
Might have been a better picture if you'd given us a little warning.
Mr. Cole specializes in catching people off guard.
Oh, there you are, Jim. Now, look, I've been working on Jeff Barnes. He's just about ready to fork over for the new library.
I'll talk to him in the morning, Claude.
Take my word for it and do it now.
But we were just...
I'll be all right, Jim. Mr. Griswold, your wife was telling me that you just gave the college a projection room and motion picture equipment.
I don't mind saying it cost me a young fortune.
Claude's one of the best friends this college ever had.
I'm honored, Mr. Griswold. You see, Miss Shackelford was saying that my film will be the first to be shown.
Your film?
Oh, just something I assembled a couple of years ago to illustrate a lecture. Miss Shackelford thought it might interest some of the students.
Sounds fine, Miss Reed. Fine. Well, Jim?
Yes, of course. We mustn't let Mr. Barnes cool off.
Heavy odor of orange blossoms in the air.
You haven't wasted a minute, have you, Matt?
Merrill must be quite a guy to keep a woman like you on the hook for 20 years.
Yes, he is. Quite a guy.
Or else you must be getting tired.
Now, what does that mean?
Oh, this overwhelming desire to return to the past. Girlhood memories, old rooms in the dormitory, old furniture, old sweethearts, old hats.
You've been on war fronts for so long that a decent atmosphere is bound to seem a little incongruous.
Who are you kidding, Aggie? Take a good look around. Talk to some of the students. Talk to some of the professors. This is a lost world up here, and Merrill is the perfect president for it.
That penetrating analysis of Jim Merrill is based on one, how do you do?
Is it? You used to be a pretty good reporter, Aggie. You talked to some of the teachers. Dr. Pitt, for example. You might get an earful.
The old amphitheater, Agatha. Looks just the same, doesn't it?
Just the same.
I was late, wasn't I?
Oh, a little.
On my way, Dr. Pitt stopped me. He said you had quite a talk with him.
Oh, Jim, I'm sorry. I was meddling. I had no right to.
In this case, you had every right.
What did you tell him? Is he going to resign?
No, I asked him to remain here. That's what you expected, isn't it?
Well, that's what I hoped for, but what about Mr. Griswold?
Well, I imagine there'll be some tearing of hair. But I'm sure I can manage the situation so that both sides appear to win.
Oh, Jim.
Remember the last time we were here? We were very young, very much in love.
And you proposed to me.
Agatha, if I were to ask you again, is there any chance your answer might be the same?
Oh, always on second proposals.
This time you won't run away?
No.
Well, then I can tear this up. It's the note you left for me.
You kept it.
I've never quite forgiven myself for introducing you to the beauties of Walt Whitman. Goodbye, my fancy. Farewell, dear mate. Dear love.
The note. May I have it? Thank you. Hello, my fancy.
Agatha.
Aggie?
Woody's the name.
Oh, it's you.
That's the answer I always get.
Well, I'll stick it out for a couple of hours longer. If she doesn't show up by morning, I'll leave.
Got it bad, haven't you? Look, I'm not being nosy. I think Aggie's making a mistake, too. I don't just work for this woman. I like her. I care what happens to her.
So do I.
What was it with you and Aggie, anyway?
Well, I hadn't seen her since the day Paris was liberated. And before that, not for months. I knew I was going to ask her to marry me. I think she did, too. We made a date for that night. I rustled up 8 red roses, a bottle of champagne, and a ring. I tore the petals off the roses and sprinkled them in the doorway. I put the ring at the bottom of the glass. She'd drink the champagne, see the ring, and catch on that I was proposing. Nice idea, wasn't it?
Yes, very.
Only Aggie never showed up.
Too bad.
Well, the evening wasn't entirely wasted. I learned something that's been invaluable to me ever since. You know it only takes 3 hours for roses to turn brown around the edges?
I'm sorry, Cole.
What are you sorry about? Now that I've seen her dreamboat in action, I'm not worried. He's a memory, something she pressed in a book through the years like an old rose.
You're expecting an awful lot of her in one short weekend.
That's why I'm going to give her a little help. Right before your very eyes, I'll turn that memory into a man.
Very clever, if it works.
Oh, it'll work. Oh, you leaving?
Wouldn't you rather? I hear the approach of familiar footsteps.
Well, good evening. I was just about to put a light in the window.
I'm glad you didn't bother. I know exactly where I'm going. Good night, Matt.
Aggie, I want to talk
Oh,
to you.
yes, of course, about Dr. Pitt. You'll be very unhappy to hear that any difference of opinion is now a thing of the past. Dr. Pitt will remain here.
Oh, well, that's one thing in the Prexy's favor. He doesn't want to lose you. I don't blame him.
He's not going to lose me.
Then it's all set?
All set.
Well, congratulations.
You just can't take it, can you, Matt? That he could be more exciting, more desirable than you.
Well, that's right. I'm as vain as the next guy. Since you've gone in for collecting memories, here's another one. I'm sorry if I smeared your lipstick. Good night, Aggie.
Why, it's Mr. Cole. Do come in, Mr. Cole.
Good morning, Miss Shackelford.
Busy taking pictures, I suppose?
Well, that's what I wanted to see you about. I just want to be sure I'm at the right place at the right time. Now, let me see. Tomorrow is Saturday.
Oh, but tonight's the prom and the step sing at Griswold Hall.
Step sing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. They sing on the steps. Tomorrow morning, I believe Dr. Pitt mentioned something for 11 o'clock.
Oh, yes, the film showing. Miss Reed's film.
No. I don't mean that. Isn't there something else on tap?
Why, no, nothing.
Well, there must be.
Mr. Cole, there will be nothing at 11 o'clock tomorrow but Miss Reed's motion picture.
Anybody seen it yet?
No, I don't think so. Oh, yes, Dr. Pitt. It was at his suggestion that I sent for it.
Dr. Pitt? Oh, fine. Miss Shackelford, where can I find Mr. Griswold?
Mr. Griswold? Yeah. Well, now, I'd be glad to show you, Mr. Cole. Now, you just come with me.
I would have stopped by sooner, Agatha, but something came up. I just wanted to remind you about the prom tonight.
Jim, are you sure that's all?
No, I just couldn't wait that long to see you.
Did Griswold reach you, Jim? He phoned here some time ago.
I've just come from his house.
He asked about that film of mine. He seemed a little concerned.
Well, yes, a little. I'm terribly sorry, darling, but I forgot to ask you anything about the picture.
Do you think I would have brought anything unsuitable here?
Agatha, of course not.
Jim, I spent 5 years in Europe. I saw what happened in those countries where freedom was destroyed. That's what the film is about. Actual newsreel shots of some of the dreadful things that have happened in our time. How they burned the books, how they hanged the teachers by their feet because they dared to teach the truth. You think I want to see that happen here?
I'm not questioning it at all. It's just that these are touchy times, so Claude feels we ought to have a look at it. It's a shame Mr. Cole had to bring it up.
Cole?
Well, yes. Claude said that Cole had stopped by to take a picture. He happened to mention the film to Claude.
What did he say about it?
He praised it very highly. But when he said that Dr. Pitt had liked it, too, well, Claude got a little worried.
Oh, it's funny. It's really funny.
Darling, believe me, we'll straighten it out. I don't need to see the picture. I know it's all right. Besides, there's something the matter with my eyes.
Oh?
I can't seem to see anything but you. About the prom. Wait for me here, dear. I'll pick you up.
Yes, Jim, of course.
It's Ginny, Miss Reed. May I come in?
Ginny, of course, yes. What are you trying to tell me, Ginny?
Well, some people think the president of a college has the right to make decisions on things. But he doesn't. He has to check everything with the trustees. Whatever he may feel himself just doesn't matter.
You mean they may not run the film?
My father's done wonderful things for the school. 7 new buildings in 10 years. Isn't that something to be proud of? I'm so proud.
It's all right, Ginny. It's all right.
Oh, I'm so ashamed. My father's a coward, Miss Reed. He's so afraid of losing his job, he's lost everything he ever believed in.
How do you know he isn't fighting them on this?
Because he's forgotten how to fight. Oh, Miss Reed, you just don't understand.
I want to tell you something, Ginny. Something I'm sure you don't know. I was expelled from this college.
You were what?
Expelled because I stayed out all night with a man. We were very much in love and planning to be married, but I ran away so I wouldn't hurt his chances of becoming president. He had strength and integrity and courage. He still has. So let's not turn away from him now, just when he needs us the most.
Miss Reed. Oh, I should have known. Whenever he talked about you, he was different. And I never really gave him up. I just needed someone else to believe in him, too.
Now you'd better get dressed for the prom.
Oh, thank you, Miss Reed. Thank you.
Agatha, you look beautiful.
Thank you. And what's more, I'm all ready. Surprised?
Your arm, Miss Reed.
Oh, Jim, imagine going to a prom again.
Claude and Ellen stopped by. They thought we might as well make it a foursome.
Of course.
They're downstairs.
Oh, just like old times, isn't it, Anne?
Hello, Ellie. Good evening, Mr. Griswold.
Now, that's what I call a charming couple. Ellie, you didn't forget my pills. My stomach's murdering me.
I knew it. If you hadn't got so upset at the movie, you wouldn't have had to call that meeting. Oh?
Oh, that's too bad, Mr. Griswold. It sounds like it's all my fault.
Oh, I didn't mean that, Ag. It's just that we were late for dinner and Claude just gulped.
How did you like the movie, Mr. Griswold?
Well, it's no Abbott and Costello.
They're Claude's favorites.
Agatha, Claude realizes what you tried to accomplish with the film, and he...
Sure I do. But why show college kids this kind of stuff? Time enough to start worrying when they're out of college.
That's a very interesting theory of education, Mr. Griswold. Is it yours?
I leave theories to experts here like Jim. All I care about, frankly, is protecting the minds of the young people here.
You're not protecting them, Mr. Griswold. You're destroying them. A college is where the future of the world begins, and professors aren't intellectual babysitters. It's their job to bring some light into this muddled world, but you've put a stop to that. The result is the girls who graduate tomorrow aren't prepared for the world they'll have to face. Yet you're content to hand it to them and say fight for it, die for it, but don't attempt to understand it.
Miss Reed, I think we know what's best for our school.
Claude, please, let me handle this.
There's no handling to it, Jim. And we might as well tell her now. Miss Reed, we've canceled the showing of the film.
I see. And Dr. Merrill, did he agree?
On vital issues, the president and the trustees always agree. Now, suppose we get over to the prom.
Claude, you and Ellen go ahead. I'd like to speak to Miss Reed alone.
Don't be too long. It wouldn't look well if you were late.
Oh, dear.
Forget it, Ellie. Now she knows just how we feel. When Jim turns on the old charm...
excuse me, have you seen Miss Reed?
The man from the magazine, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Miss Reed's inside, but I don't think you'd better disturb her right now. Come along, Ellie.
Thank you. I'll just wait for her here.
I know how you must feel, Agatha, but you must give me a chance to explain.
Jim, did you see the film?
Yes?
Well, do you think it's wrong for your students to see it? Be honest with me.
No.
And you didn't stand up and say that?
Agatha, I'm just asking you to try to see my position. There are times when I have to bow to...
To Claude Griswold?
You're exaggerating Claude's importance in this whole affair.
Am I? When he and not what should be taught at this college?
He's a businessman. He gives money. He's a businessman. He gives money, and he wants his say. It's as simple as that. Why do you look so shocked?
I'm not shocked. Just frightened. That you can stand here and say